I can do.
Go ahead, Kapil.
Om. 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 Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanao Bhunaktu Saha Viryam Karva Vahai Tejasvinavaditamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmad Acharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Param Brahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Saraswati Namastubhyam Varade Kama Rupini Vidyarambham Karishyami Siddhir Bhavatu Me Sada Karpanya Doshopahata Swabhavaha Prachami Tvam Dharma Samudha Chetaha Yasceha Sanishchitam Bruhitan Me Shishyasteham Shadimam Tvam Prapannam. Om Vang Me Manasi Pratishtita Mano Me Vachi Pratishthitam Avira Virma Edhi Vedasya Ma Anishtaha Shrutam Me Ma Prahasihi Anena Adhitena Ahoratran Sandadhami Ritam Vadishyami Satyam Vadishyami Tanmam avatu tad vaktaram avatu mam avatu vaktaram. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Bhadram Karnevih Shunuyama Devaha Bhadram Pashyamakshavir Yajatraha Sthirairangai Tushtuvagam Swastanu Vashema Devahitam Yadayuhu Swastina Indro Vridashravaha Swastina Pusha Vishwavedaha Swastina Tarksho Arishtanemihi Swastino Vrihaspati Dadhatu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Aham Vrikshasya Reriva Kirti Prishtham Gireriva Urdhva Pavitro Vajiniva Swa Amritam Asmi Draviragvam Savarchasam Sumeda Amritokshitaha Iti Trishankur Vedanuvachanam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.
Narayan, everyone. Okay, chapter 11. We'll start with chapter 11 today. So this is the chapter of Vishwaroop Darshan Yog, right? Vishwaroop Darshan. So what has happened thus far is, since chapter 7 onwards, Bhagwanji has been showing us how to perceive him in this world, right? And now, and over a period of time, Arjun's consciousness has been rising constantly, right? And his ability to perceive Bhagwanji in his various subtleties is increasing constantly. And now he has reached a point where he has complete faith, he has complete belief, he understands what Bhagwan Ji is saying, and he has been able to perceive, like you see the examples that have been given thus far till chapter 10 have names, forms, or they have and they are variable, right? They have different types of utilities despite the unity behind them, right? So there is a so I'll explain few words here, okay? And I'll, you know, as we go forward, we will now start to and try to understand more and more of some Hindi words, right? Sanskrit words, because English as a language is very limited in the meaning it captures. There's a lot lost in that translation. So now we will start and we will focus on some important words as we move ahead, wherever they become important, right? So in this class, there are a couple of words that I would explain. So one concept is the concept of roop and a concept of swaroop. Okay. And we've talked about these concepts. There's nothing new in it, but I'm just introducing the terms, right? Roop is this names and forms that we talk about, right? Roop is always variable. Roop changes, right? So roop is names, forms, utilities. Whereas swaroop is the basic, that which is behind it, that which is the real nature of things. Okay. So behind all these names, forms, the different roops that we see is the swaroop, which is ek. And that swaroop is Brahma. So whenever we use the word Swaroop, that's how you should understand that term. Swaroop is one, Swaroop is Brahma for all of us, right? We may look different, we may have different roles to perform in the society, but the Swaroop for all of us is one and only one Brahma. Okay, Roop and Swaroop. So aaj tak, abhi tak in this chapter from up till 10, he has shown us the roop of him, the subtleties of him that can be perceived by our senses. Something that we can see, something that we can taste, something that we can smell, something that we can hear, something that we can perceive with our mind, something we can understand with our intellect. Okay? Everything has been in that realm, whether it is something you can see or not, even if, like, you know, when he's talking about thoughts or emotions or whatever, these are all part of apara prakriti. He has been showing us his examples in apara prakriti, right? We've talked about this before, right? Para prakriti and apara prakriti. What are para prakriti and apara prakriti? Para prakriti and apara prakriti are Bhagwan Ji's shaktis. Okay. So, and he's uses different words throughout, right? So whether you call it avidya, ignorance, maya, prakriti, all of these are words that are interchangeable. Okay. So para prakriti and apara prakriti. He has given us examples of these types, but these are all in prakriti, right? They are not his divine. There's no, like it is not transcendental self. Right? So we've seen that 23 modifications of the nature, right? So there's transcendental self, and then everything else starts from the below. So all these examples he's given us are in this part of the world, right? Now, Arjun's consciousness has reached a point where he now wishes to have a transcendental view of him. He wishes to see the divine form of Bhagwan Ji. Okay, that's the space that he has reached. And that's why now we are doing this chapter 11. Yeah. So let's see who wants to go with this first.
Just
Yeah, Vinay, go ahead.
no, I think I covered it.
Okay. Rituj, do you want to start? Like we'll do Atha Ekadasho Adhyaya, right? To start the chapter. Start with that.
अथ एकादशो अध्यायः विश्वरूप दर्शन योग, the yoga of cosmic vision. Introduction. As has been mentioned earlier, the Lord expounded the subject of his direct perception as well as that of his total perception from chapter 7 to chapter 10. To regard the diversity of forms in the world to be real leads into the mire of ignorance. In chapter 10, the exposition of his principle, sublimities, pointedly revealed how he could be perceived as the primal cause of every form of manifestation. In this chapter, the Lord would enable Arjun to have a direct view of his cosmic form, in which the diversities of manifestation would be perceived as being one with his absolute existence. Therefore, this chapter has been named as the Yoga of Cosmic Vision.
Yeah. So here the most important sentence to note is Lord would enable Arjuna to have a direct view of his cosmic form. It is not possible for us to view his divine form with the current set of accoutrements, the current set of tool set that we have. Right? It's like trying to see bacteria with your eyes, right? Microscopic forms. You cannot see it. You need to have a microscope as a new tool in your tool set to be able to view the microscopic forms, right? Similarly, viewing the divine form of Bhagwanji is impossible with our current tool set. Okay. So you need his anugrah. You need him to enable you. That's where the anugrah comes into picture. The kripa of Bhagwanji is the most important thing we need in our life, right? We can't do without his kripa. Now, another important thing is, so you need his kripa, but like, how do you perceive this cosmic vision? How do you perceive this Vishwaroop, right? This is, you will not perceive him in a, okay, so the word in Hindi is used as paroksh form. Okay, what he's asking for is paroksh form. Okay, actually this is chapter Shloka 1, so I'll talk about it later. But okay, important thing here is to understand that you need Bhagwanji's kripa. You cannot see it. That is why this sentence is important to remember. There's nothing you can do. You know, all the dam, sham, and all the shram you may do. You may put all your Rajoguni nature at work and do all the hard work that is required. You will not perceive his divine form without his kripa. He has to enable you, right? Go to Shloka 1. Vijay, you want to read the first Shloka? Connection.
Yeah, connection. Okay. Arjuna said,
Arjunovacha
Arjuna Uvacha
Madanugrahaya Paramam
Madanugrahaya Paramam
Guhya Madhyatma Sanjitam
Guhya Madhyatma Sanchitam Samjitam
Yatva Yoktam Vachastena
Yakva Yoktam Vachestena
Mohoyam Vigato Mama
Mohoyam Vigatu Mama
Madanugrahaya Paramam मुझ पर परम अनुग्रह करने के लिए for bestowing your ultimate grace on me, right? Guhya Guhyam, absolute secretive. Adhyatma Sanjitam, topic of spiritual science, right? So I'm just pointing out the important stuff. You're not doing the word meanings as such. Vachastena, उससे कहा है, you have said. मोहोयम, delusion. Vigato, mama, मेरा नष्ट हो गया है. It has been completely destroyed. So my delusion has been destroyed by the words that you have said. Let's read.
Arjuna said, by the supremely miraculous words concerning the self spoken by you out of compassion for me, my delusion is completely gone. Removal of delusion by Lord's words about the self. The Holy Gita begins with the Arjuna's melancholy caused by delusion. If a prayer is made to the Lord with the spirit of dedication to remove the delusion, the Lord does not hesitate to reveal even his miraculous and mystifying aspects. This revelation conveys the Jivatma, the individualized self, that whatever is perceived in the world is nothing but a view of his sublimity through the diverse forms. Assuming the phenomenal world to be real leads to delusion, which is removed by a vision of Lord's splendor.
The first important is we have to first of all recognize that we are in a space of delusion. We're caught in Maya, that this is not real, right? And then a prayer has to be made to the Lord. What was the prayer that that Arjun made? At what point of time did he make that dedication to Lord, after which his Gita started? Anyone?
Chapter 2, Karpanya Dosha.
Karpanya dosh, right? And we also do that in our invocation shlokas every time, right? So the spirit of that shloka is very important. First of all, in that shloka, he says, I have a dosh of karpanya. I am miserly. I am dharma sammudha chetaha. My consciousness about what is right thing to do, what is my duty, what is my dharma, is very restricted. I do not know what is of my ultimate welfare. So that is the first step. He understands that fact very clearly. And then what does he do? He says, I am now dedicating myself to you. I am your shishya. You tell me what is of my ultimate welfare. Okay? So that spirit of complete dedication and surrender, when you surrender, that means you will not put in your own buddhi. Then after that, what Bhagwan Ji tells you to do, you've got to do it. अब इसके बीच में हम अपनी बुद्धि लगा दें कि आप पहले हमें बताइए, then I will evaluate it with my brain, with my thought process, whether I agree with it or not. And if I agree with it, then it is true. If I don't agree with it, then I will leave it. And nah, this doesn't make sense, right? If you are in that space, Bhagwan Ji is not going to speak to you. Let's be very clear about it, right? Because we have not done surrender. We are still using our own buddhi. That means our what's the word in Hindi used? Hamara jo wo hai, like, where are we? What is our support? Then our support, if we are using our own buddhi to decide what is right, what is not, if we are evaluating Bhagwan Ji's things and saying, okay, I agree with this, I don't agree with this. So if whatever I agree with this makes sense to me, I will do it. Whatever doesn't make sense to me, I don't agree with it and I will not do it. Then our support is still sansar. It is not Bhagwan Ji. If our support is not Bhagwan Ji, then do not expect Bhagwan Ji to be talking to you directly. And definitely don't expect his anugrah to see his divine form. Okay? This is very important to know. Varna kya hota hai, hum log, we do puja, we do upasana, we talk to him, we think we are doing our duties and all. But what? With the support of our own self. The support is ego. We think we're doing it. There is this doership, enjoyership. Doership, enjoyership. मैंने किया है तो मुझे तो इसका result मिलना ही चाहिए ना. नहीं मिलता है, then we are sad, we are upset. मैंने कुछ किया किसी के लिए. Immediately मुझे returns चाहिए. Nahi milega, I'll be upset. I did so much hard work in the office. Did I get the promotion I thought I deserved? Did I get the like, was I called out by my boss in front of the company? Somebody else got called out? Very upset. How did that guy get my credit? I did all the hard work, right? All of these situations, that means I am not listening to Bhagwan Ji. I don't have surrender to him. My surrender is to my own ego. Right? So this is very important to know. And we will talk about this again and again in every class going forward, because without that surrender, this knowledge will never dawn on us. It will remain at the intellectual level. It will be an intellectual exercise. We'll come here, we'll listen, we'll read. We'll probably even be able to talk a lot about it very intelligently. it will not reflect in us. 5 years down the line also, we will still be the same person, doing the same rag dvesh, going through the same ups and downs of life, crying, smiling, going up and down. There's no tej in us because we've not done tap. We've not done swadhyay. Swadhyay. We constantly talk about swadhyay. What is that swadhyay? Swadhyay is not, I went through 3 shlokas. Swadhyay is going through those 2 shlokas and then asking yourself, where do I see it in myself? Right? We have to constantly see things in ourselves. That's Swadhyay. So without that and without the spirit of dedication and surrender to Lord, we will never reach chapter 11, where Arjun has reached today. I mean, I'm sorry, I think you were trying to say something and I kept on and on. So.
I think you covered it. But yeah, I think one thing I want to highlight is this shloka is very powerful in the sense that it very clearly highlights that the way to dispel our darkness is through these spiritual words that we are reading. It's through these scriptures. That is really clear. But even if you read this 100 times, until you build compassion or surrendership for Bhagwanji, these words are not going to remove your delusion. That is where that compassion piece comes in. It's out of compassion for me. It's that sense of love that he feels. And that is all we want. And that is all we keep chasing in our life. Except that we keep chasing love and compassion in spouses, in children, in friends, in family. We look for validation from a sansaric level. But we all are chasing validation. There is no human that is not chasing validation. All of us are. This shloka is saying we just need to turn that towards God. Once we feel his compassion from within, then all our delusion will disappear immediately. And his compassion is always there for us. Like it's like sunlight. It's always there. But then we put a roof and walls and we block it off, and then we say, there's no sunlight in this room. That's what we're doing with his compassion and his grace. We have to be ready to receive it. That's the work we're doing.
Correct. And and his anugrah does not mean कि हम लोग काम नहीं करेंगे, right? Our effort has to be there. Without our effort, like there are a couple of things that we keep saying, maybe it creates some confusion, but important thing to know is we keep saying ignorance can never be removed by any action you do, right? It is only removed by knowledge. Once you know it, there is no more ignorance, right? But to get to that point of knowledge, that preparation that Abhinav said, ki grace to baras rahi hai, we are not able to collect it. Patrata nahi hai hamari. We don't have the ability to collect the grace that's coming to us. And shram is required for that. The effort that we do, the tap that we have to do, that is constantly outlined, is to get to that point where we become eligible to receive his grace. And once we receive the grace, then the agyan, the ignorance goes.
So what's also interesting is with delusion or agyan or ignorance, you don't realize you're deluded till after you've not become non-deluded.
It's like
When
dream.
you're, it's
Yeah.
like when you're in delusion or when you're ignorant, you don't even know you're deluded and ignorant. It is only after you've got the right gyan and you've grown as a person, do you look back and say, oh my God, I was so deluded. And all of us have experienced this. If we look at ourselves in the 20s, all of us hold our heads like, what were we thinking? What were the choices we were making? But now I'm much better. I'm pretty sure 5 years from now I'll look back at my life and I'll be like, boss, I deluded there also. Right? And that's the journey.
Yeah, and the example would be that of a dream, right? When we are actually in the dream, we feel the dream to be so real, right? We feel the pain. It's very real as long as it lasts. You feel the pain, you feel the laughter, you feel the happiness, you feel the elation, you feel the fear. These are all extraordinarily real. But the moment you wake up and you realize it was a dream, everything goes. Share some examples of what, Lisa Lakshmi?
What you said now, can you please share some examples to understand? Abhinav said, right?
Example, right? For you
Yeah.
to understand. Dream is an example of when you're living in a dream, when you're dreaming something, right? You're sleeping and you're actually dreaming. Everything that you experience in the dream, you don't know you're in a dream. You think it's real, right? Everything that happens in a dream feels extraordinarily real. Your emotions are there and everything, correct? But when you wake out of the dream, that's when you realize, oh, it was all a dream. It meant nothing. Correct? That's what Abhinav was saying, that when you're deluded, you don't know until after the fact. It's only when the knowledge comes to you, you realize, oh. So when the knowledge comes to you, it's like you waking up. When you wake up, you realize, oh, that was all a dream. You've seen that, right? Vedant wakes up so many times and he says, Mama, I had this kind of a dream. And but it was so real for him. And then you're like, yeah, it was just a dream, right? So
The,
that is what he meant.
the best example I can give, Visalakshi, and I'm sure all of us have read this at some point in a WhatsApp forward, is there are a pair of twins and they're sitting in the fetus of the mother, right? They're growing in the mother's belly. And one child tells to the other child that, I think there is more to life than this. I think we will come out of this, and I think we will get to see our mother. We will get to experience the compassion of our mother. We will get to experience love and be one with her. And the other one says, hey, what are you talking about? This is life. We're swimming in darkness. This is what we're going to do. We eat from this pipe. What pipe dreams you're sitting and living here, right? And this was the conversation they constantly had, right?
And he
And
said,
this is the conversation.
and the other one keeps saying, right, like, if there is mother, show me where she is. I can't see your mother. And the other kid says, mother is all around us. We are inside of mother. And she's the one who's providing nourishment for us. And the deluded one says that, what? I don't see mother. Who are you saying? This is mother? This is not mother. This is where we get our food from. There is no mother here. Right? So this is it, but this is it. This is our life. So that's the difference between people who feel like this prakriti, this life that we are living, this is it. This is the reality. People who ask, where is God? Show me God. And when you say that God is all around you, and the deluded ones say, really, like, doesn't make sense. Right. So this was just an example to make you understand that conversation. When you don't have the full larger context, then the small context you see around you, and you don't have the perception, then you get lost in the names and forms, the roop, which is changing and is transient.
So I think the other point here to understand is you make a certain account within yourself that you are always deluded. And that's why we need the scriptures. That's why we need to do Swadhyaya. That's why we need His grace to get out of this delusion, because we all are very much ingrained in sansar, in the ups and downs, in the struggles. Until you don't reach moksha and enlightenment, we always have a certain amount of delusion within us, which is why we experience anger, which is why we experience anxiety, which is why we experience sorrow, which is why we experience elation, all of those things, right? Which is why we get pleasure out of shopping or eating or whatever.
Thank you.
We go to Shlok 2. This is a very important Shlok. Who did not read in last class? Sanchita, do you want to read the second shlok?
Yeah. Referring to this, Arjuna said,
Bhavapyayo hi bhutanam
Bhavapiyayo hi bhutanam
Shrutau vistarasho maya
Shrutau vistarasho maya
Tavattah kamalapatraksha
Tavatta kamala patraksha.
We'll do this again because that first ta is actually half and I said it as full ta. Tvattah kamalapatraksha
Tvatta kamala patraksha.
Mahatmya Mahatmyamapi chavyayam
Mahatmyapi chavyayam.
So bhavyapyayo is utpatti and pralay, creation and destruction, coming into being and being destroyed. Bhutanam, all beings. Shrutau, sune hain, we've heard. Vistarasho, in detail. Maya, maine, me, by me. Twataha, from you. Kamala Patraksh. Kamala Patraksh is a reference to Bhagwan Ji. Kamala Patraksh means eyes that are like the leaves of the lotus. Mahatmya is Mahima. Yeah. Glories. Chavyayam, like, and which are eternal. Avyayam, eternal.
O Kamala Patraksha, the origination and dissolution of beings, along with your unbounded glories, have been heard by me in detail. The unbounded glories of the Lord. The epithet Kamala Patraksha has been used for the Lord in this shloka. This word means one with eyes like a lotus leaf. This epithet is meant to indicate not only the beauty of his eyes, but it has a much deeper significance. The lotus leaf, while floating in water, is not moistened by it at all. This is symbolic of the fact that the Lord, being both the source of origination and the receptacle of all entities and phenomena after their dissolution, transcends them at the same time. This epithet, therefore, is indicative of the Lord's immanence as well as transcendence, in which lies indeed his supreme unbounded glory.
So, what I wanted to say in the beginning of the introduction of the chapter is that in Bhakti Yoga, we've so far, Bhagwanji has been talking a lot about the subtleties of how to look for Bhagwanji around, especially in chapter 10, right? Here, the Vibhutis. And Arjun is us, right? And we are Arjun. So somewhere now, Arjun wants to make a ask. He's tasted, he's getting a sense of, okay, Bhagwanji is this nectar. He wants more. Like, I actually want to see you, right? He wants to see Bhagwanji now. He's just like, he just wants the entire root. He's just like, don't give me in like, don't show. I don't want to look for you in like these small things. I believe you are everything. I believe you are all creation, all dissolution happens with you. All of us reside in you. I believe all of that. But his real intent here is to ask for, I want to see you. मुझे आपको बस देखना है. That's what I want to do. And what I find fascinating about these shlokas, these couple of shlokas, is just like when we or when our children come to us to ask for something, what do? The moment they'll start praising you, they'll start reinforcing, Mama, I know you look this, Mama, I did my homework, I did this, I did that, I understand this, so now I want this. And that's what Arjun is doing here. He is reinforcing the important points, repeating them for Bhagwanji. It's not as if Bhagwanji doesn't know this, but he's repeating it right now, reinforcing it to please him, to make that ask, right? And that is very conscious of our behavior as well. Like all of us do this. But it is interesting that this reinforcement is also really important, because that is how Bhagwanji knows that he's being a good student and he's deserving of it. Right? The words he's using, the compassion with which he's describing God, the lotus eyes, etc. Bhagwanji now feels he's a worthy student and he will show his Vishwaroop to her. Yeah, Tuna, you can.
Yeah, so the word Kamala Patraksh, right? That is very, very important. It basically takes us back to Shlokas 9.4 to 9.6. And here, when he says that, basically, what were Shlokas 9.4 to 9.6? They're actually one of the most difficult to understand shlokas. Okay. And this is a reference, Kamal Patraksh, in that one sentence, in that one word, he has basically covered the essence of these three shlokas there. These three shlokas explain to us what is the relationship between the physical world and the Lord. Where he talks about what is the relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma. Okay, but more importantly, between how is this para prakriti and how does Bhagwanji relate to it? Okay, and in 9.4, 5, and 6, he basically says that this entire universe is pervaded by me. I am part of, they are, so he says, I am, they exist in me. They exist in me, but I don't exist in them. Right? So they exist in me, but I don't exist in them. How does that work? Right? It's a difficult to understand concept when you go deeper into it. Okay. And everything abides in me, but I'm not affected by them at all. And we used a lot of examples to try and understand them. The word Kamala Patraksh takes us back to that concept. Because why is Kamal so important, right? It comes again and again and again in our scriptures, because it has some certain characteristics, certain properties that when you look at it, right, with this viewpoint that we've gained in these last 4 or 5 chapters, it immediately reminds us of some really important characteristics of the Lord, because Kamal has also received those characteristics from Bhagwanji only, right? So one of the important characteristics of Kamal is that first of all, Kamal kichad mein ugta hai, right? And it is unaffected by the kichad around it. So it does not matter what your circumstances are around you. You have the capacity to fulfill your destiny, to reflect the divinity inside of you, irrespective of the environment around you. Secondly, the leaf that stays in the water is always unmoistened by that by the water. It does not get affected, right? It has that waxy appearance to it, and at no point of time can the water wet the very leaf that sits in it. And that's the concept, that characteristic is that of Bhagwanji, that all things exist in me, but I don't exist in them. They abide in me, but I have no effect on them. The fact that, it's at the examples that we gave of what? One. The first example to understand this deep concept is when you look yourself in the mirror, right? That mirror image is completely abides in the person. Everything in that image is a reflection of this person. But this person, no part of this person resides in that image. Okay? The two words that I'll introduce here is adhishthan and adhyast. Adhishthan is that which creates a support for something, that which is the base, that which is the basis of something. Adhishthan. Adhyast is that which sits on adhishthan, which owes its existence on this adhishthan. So in this example, in this mirror, in this example of the image in the mirror, the person whose image is reflected in that image, that person is the Adhishtan and the image is the Adhyast. Okay, so everything, so now here, whatever happens right here, you will see that image is a reflection of this person, but at no point of time this person exists in that image. So that's one example. The second example was the second example is that of sky. Wind completely exists in sky. Okay, and when the wind moves and it suppose it rakes up a lot of dust, you will see the sky ka hue change from bright happy blue to like this dirty blue, right? But when the wind stops, that hue of the sky returns to its natural blue that we generally see, right? So whatever the sky does, whatever the wind does, it abides within the receptacle of the sky, but at no point of time the sky is affected by this wind. Okay, and this is the reference back with that one word. He's saying, I understand this concept that you've explained to me. 9.4 to 9.6, the relationship Bhagwanji has with this physical world. So that's why he's saying it's indicative of immanence and transcendence. Immanence, I am in everything. Transcendence, but I'm above everything. I transcend everything. I transcend this world, which means whatever happens in this world has no impact on me. Another example we had given was that of Suraj. Surya gives light to everything that happens in this world, right? And it powers everything with its energy. But what we do with that energy, whether we do good deeds, whether we do bad deeds with that energy, it has zero impact on the sun. It will continue to shine the same way. There is no pap, there is no punya that accrues to him. So these are some of the examples. Of course, they are incomplete because there's nothing in this world that we can use as an example that will really completely capture what Bhagwanji is. But they help us understand with our intellect, limited intellect, what we mean by his immanence and his transcendence. Okay. Let's go to the next one. Visalakshi, would you read with us?
Now Arjuna draws the Lord's attention towards what he has said concerning the self.
Eva me tattvam.
Eva me tattvam.
Atmanam parameshwara.
Atmanam parameshwara.
Drashtumichhami te rupam.
Drashtumichhami te rashtram.
Te rupam.
Te rupam.
Aishwaram purushottama.
Aishwaram purushottama.
So he's saying, Eva me. ऐसा ही है जैसा आप कहते हैं. It is exactly as you say, right? Now he says, Atmanam Parameshwara, अपने को परमेश्वर, आपने आपको परमेश्वर, द्रष्टुम इच्छामि, मैं देखना चाहता हूं. Which what do I want to see? ऐश्वर्य रूप, आपके ऐश्वर्य रूप को, पुरुषोत्तम. So Purushottama and Parmeshwar are references to Bhagwanji in this shloka. Okay, let's read.
O Parameshwara, what you say about yourself is just so. I wish to see your divine form, O Purushottama. The divine form. In the shloka, Arjuna addressed the Lord as Parameshwara, or the Supreme Lord, and Purushottama. The first epithet means repository of supreme glory, cognizant and potentially vitally powered, and then victory and magnificence. It is the aspect of the Lord which combines in itself all these six subabilities, and which Arjuna wishes to behold. The epithet Purushottama denotes the self who transcends both perhaps and imperhaps nature.
And imperishable.
Perishable nature. Arjuna now wishes to perceive how the Lord substance the entire universe in the part of his being.
Okay, so Purushottam and Parmeshwar, right? Param Ishwar has 6 sublimities in it. Okay, they've used these English words which have which don't really fully capture the meaning of it. In Hindi, the 6 subtleties, the sublimities of him are Aishwarya, Gyan, Shakti, Bal, Virya, and Tej. Okay, these are the 6 attributes of Parmeshwar. When you say something is an attribute of Parmeshwar, it's part of him, right? And here the words they've used is for Aishwarya, they've used supreme glory. Aishwarya, supreme glory. But it is not just glory, but it also is, like, you can understand, Aishwarya has a lot better meaning. It's much more, it's bigger than just supreme glory. Okay. Cognition is Gyan, knowledge or cognition. Shakti is vitality. Okay, it is an internal Shakti. Then you have Bal. Bal is the external power, physical power that we see manifest. Virya is potentiality to create. Tej is magnificence, ability to influence. Right? So these are the 6 subtleties, and he has shown those subtleties in their physical, in their gross form to Arjun thus far. So that's Parmeshwar. And then Purushottam is the best, Uttama Purush. Okay, Purushottam is also is same as Bhagwanji. We use the word Purushottam to denote Lord in various aspects. Okay, this is a person who is who has transcended both real and unreal, real, unreal, and mithya. Okay, in simpler words, we always use the word sat and asat, real and unreal. Okay, but there's actually a third thing which lies in between these two, called mithya. So a person who has transcended all of them is Purushottam. And Arjun is now wants to see, okay, I understand that you sustain this world, everything abides in you. I want to now see how that happens. How? I understand it, I accept it, I fully believe it. Now show me how it happens. Okay? And that's why he's asking for his divine vision. Now let's get back to understanding what is real and unreal, right? It's a constant thing, right? Real is that which stays after everything is gone. Something that is true in all times. Something that is true in all times. If something is transient, so Sat is that which is going to be true. It was true earlier, it is true today, and it will be true tomorrow. Okay, we have in the past used the words Rit for this. We had at one point of time in one class, we had made the difference between Rit and Satya, right? Rit is that which is true at all times. And then we said Satya is that which we perceive to be true. Like it is day in Singapore. It is day. I'll say it is day. It's daytime, right? It is Satya for us in Singapore. It is not Satya for Anita, right? So that is Satya. It is not Rit, because it is not true at all times. The concept that it is daylight is not Rit. It is not true at all times and in all places, at every point of moment, right? So now here the word Satya that is being told about, right? That's Satya, one who transcends both perishable and imperishable natures. Imperishable is that Rit that we are talking about. Okay. And in most cases, when you will hear the word Sat and Asat, that Sat will refer to Rit. And Asat is that which is not true at all times, which is perishable, which has a starting and an end. Okay. One who is beyond all of this. Now, in between, I'll add a little bit more understanding for you here, because this is from here that understanding has to deepen for all of us. We understand Sat. Now this Asat, let's break it up into two parts. Okay. One type of Asat is that जो आपने कभी देखा ही नहीं, ना कभी देखा, ना सुना. It is absolutely untrue at all times. An example would be horns on the head of a khargosh, rabbit. You've never seen it. It is Asat. Okay, that's an example of Asat. But we also use the word Asat to say this world is Asat. Right? A better word that has been utilized by the seers is the word mithya. In English, we don't have a word that really translates mithya correctly. Okay, so let's understand mithya really well. Mithya is that which seems real to us, but is absolutely unreal. That which seems true, but it is actually absolutely untrue. That's Sat and Asat ka difference. So it is actually Asat, but it seems like Sat. This world is an example of mithya. It feels really real to us, right? And that's why it is so impossible to break out of it. So difficult to break out of it. So much upasana and tapa we have to do to break out of this Asat. Because it seems real. This body seems real. You can't ignore it. Your relationships seem real. Whatever happens to you in this world on a day-to-day basis, you go to your office, so real. People insult you, so real. How do you ignore it? Right? And this is where we get trapped. So we have used a lot of examples to understand the difference between these. Like example that we gave at the start of the class that Abhinav gave. Dream. Dream is mithya. But as long as you're living in that dream, it seems so real. There's no part of it that seems unreal. Somebody tells you during that dream, when you're living that dream, oh, this is all dream. Would you believe it? You won't believe it in that dream. It's only when you wake up, you realize that this is unreal. Right? Yes, Kakuli.
So is Maya Asat, like another name for Asat? Is it Maya also?
Yeah. Maya, Prakriti. A better word to use would be mithya. To separate it from the fact that there is something that is asat, but seems very sat to us. That is mithya. Okay? And an example I'll bring up here. Yes, somebody was saying something.
No, Nitya, or how to pronounce?
Mithya. Mithya. Mithya, if you use it loosely, in English, it translates to lies. That which is a lie. Okay? In literature, when you use the word mithya, in English, it translates to a lie. Yes, Sachin.
Mithya and Maya, can we equate them together then?
Maya is mithya. Because Maya is not mithya. I wouldn't say we don't use the word mithya for Maya. We use the word Maya, Prakriti, Avidya. And these are all mithya. Like it's a concept for us to understand what is Maya. Bhagwanji doesn't use the word mithya. Scholars have used the word mithya to help us understand, to understand that concept, and to create a difference between that which is absolutely untrue, which we all know to be untrue. Somebody tells you, I saw Khargosh ke sir pe seeing, and you'll be like, yeah, nonsense, like I've never seen that, right? But if somebody tries to tell you this world is mithya, this world is all asat, you'll be like, what are you talking about, dude?
So, we loosely say Maya ki Maya hai. Can we say this is Maya ki mithya?
Maya is mithya. I'll give you an example. Okay, let me give you an example to help understand that. Okay. It'll actually tie everything that we've read till this far together. Okay, all concepts will come in this example. This is another, okay, this is an oft quoted example, right? But now I think we'll develop a deeper understanding of the same example. The example of rope. Okay, now there's a rope that is lying in a room in a twilight hour. So thoda andhakar hai, right? Which creates bhram. It creates confusion. Because you don't have clarity. There is not enough light. There is not enough gyan for you to have clarity of what lies there in that room. Andhakar hai, bhram hai, ignorance hai. Right? It's there. You get it? If I'm using too much Hindi, please tell me, huh?
No, perfect.
So you have, so now what happens? Somebody sees that rope lying there and you think that rope is a snake. Okay. And now that person's scared. Is there a snake there? There's no snake there. But as long as a person who's looking at it is perceiving it as a snake, for him it is absolutely real. The way his body will react, the way his mind will react, will be like as if there is a real snake in there. So it is unreal at no point of time, not in the past, not now, not in future will the snake ever exist. But it appears to be so. It seems as if it is real. It appears to be real to the person because of ignorance, because of lack of knowledge, because of avidya. The existence of snake is mithya. At no point of, so it is asat, but we are calling it mithya because it appears to be very real to the person. You tell that person, no, there is no snake, he will not believe it. Until you switch on the light or you bring further light into the room and he sees for himself that this is not a snake. This is mithya. Okay. Now another interesting thing. You bring in another person looking at the same concept. That person will say, oh, this looks like there is a lakdi lying in there. It's a piece of wood. He may perceive it as wood. A third person may come in and think of it as a crack a big crack on the floor. So he will say, no, it's not that. It is this crack in the floor. Someone else may come in and perceive it as mala. It's a garland lying there. Avidya, ignorance, lack of knowledge creates bhram, creates confusion, creates a mithya. And people, as per their understanding, as per their antahkaran, will view it as few different things based on their experiences, their past experiences. They will come and perceive it differently.
So
Can we then say that whatever challenges we face, in this on this earth are like because of our lack of our ignorance, we feel that these are challenges, just like that rope which we felt was a snake because of our darkness or the ignorance. Can we then say that because this world is a mithya, so this maya or mithya, then challenges that we are facing are also all mithya? If we zoom out and we look at a bigger picture, they are not. Or if we are enlightened, then they don't seem like,
So,
So
the
I can,
challenge is a mithya there. Okay. Everything that comes to us is a blessing. It is here for our ultimate welfare. It's just that we have karpanya dosh in us. Our buddhi is limited. And we don't know what is of our ultimate welfare. So, we perceive things as being beneficial or not beneficial based on our mind's rag dvesh, likes and dislikes. Whatever I like, great. Whatever I don't like makes me unhappy. It is not necessarily in the line of duty. So the challenges come to us as a way for us to learn and to cleanse ourselves. Every VVGP in our life, every person who comes in contact with us, every situation that manifests itself in our life is not by chance. It is there for a very good reason. And that reason is our ultimate welfare. Bhagwanji is our Suhrud. He's our ultimate benefactor. And he's creating this life experience for us, that if we look at it and operate from the right vantage point, it will accelerate our journey towards him. It will accelerate our journey towards moksha. And when we view it as such, we are constantly grateful to Bhagwanji. We are constantly operating from a space of gratefulness and thankfulness. And gratefulness is the highest energy, highest vibration we can vibrate in. When we are in a space of gratefulness, we are in a space of love. Highest vibration in this world, which is the most beneficial for our entire being. When we are in that space, so it is the best dose for increasing our life. Right? So the word challenge is not, the challenges are not a mithya. I mean, end of the day, everything is a mithya. But why does this world exist? That's part of the first 6 chapters, right? We'll come to that as well.
So
But
wait. So Bhavna, are you familiar with the term VVGP?
No.
You want to explain VVGP once really quick? And
Vyakti, Vastu, VV, G, Ghatna. Ghatna is events, Paristhiti, circumstances. Vyakti,
so,
people come into our lives. Vastu, the things that are there or not there in our lives. Ghatna, the events that happen. Paristhiti, the circumstances we find ourselves in.
so the entire observation is this, that everything we do in this world comprises of these 4 things. It's either a person, or it's an object, or it's a situation, or it's an event that we're interacting with. Everything we do in this world, right? VVGP. And VVGP in its purpose is curated and designed for us to experience our prarabdha. That means the results of our past actions, whatever consequences we have to experience. And we, instead of putting Bhagwanji as the custodian of our life, we use ego as the custodian of our life to judge whether this particular object or person we like or we don't like. And now for 40 or 45 years, we have allowed that ego as custodian to constantly control and make decisions, which is what creates a lot of stress in our life, because we try to control the people, we try to control the objects, we try to control situation and the events, right? In Gita, in chapter 3, we talk about this a lot. This entire thing changes, because what we are being asked to perceive is that every VVGP is either a blessing or it's a lesson, which means everything that you've got is something for you to be grateful for. And God knows we have a lot to be grateful for on where we are today, right? And if you find yourself in a circumstance which is unfavorable, that is a blessing. Our growth to who we have become today only comes because of the unfavorable situations we've gone through. Those are checkpoints where
and
we
let's redefine the word unfavorable. Okay. Feels unfavorable from which space, from which vantage point? It only feels unfavorable from a vantage point of rag and dvesh. Nothing else. It's rag and dvesh. It feels unfavorable because we have dvesh towards the situation we are dealing with, because it pushes us. It pushes us physically, it pushes us mentally, it pushes us emotionally, or it pushes us spiritually. In some capacity, it pushes us beyond the place where we are comfortable. It is making us wake up early. It is making me do harder work than what I would prefer to do. It is making me do something I don't like doing. You know, my mind is constantly telling me, I don't like this, I don't want to do this, and yet I'm made to do this. It is making me interact with somebody I do not want to interact. It is making me have hard conversations when I would rather not have hard conversations with people because I want everybody to like me. Having hard conversations make other people dislike me, right? All of these situations are being thrown in our sight for us to evaluate what is it trying to teach us. Why am I uncomfortable in this situation? What is causing this? And how can I deal with it from a space of divinity and gratefulness? How would my actions change? How would my thoughts change? Every situation is there for this reason, for our antakaran ki shuddhi. Think of visually, okay, this is in one of my pujas I had. At the end of the puja, I had got this visualization which I had shared with Abhinav also at some point of time, and I'll give you this this for me, this is a very powerful visualization. I don't know if it will connect with you or not, but I got it, so I'm sharing it with you. And because I got it, obviously it's powerful for me, because and Bhagwanji gave it to me because it was useful for me, right? It's just an example, okay? Don't take it any further than that, but you will get your own visualization that will connect with you more strongly. So if there is a difficult situation, right? If it's, I visualize it as a path, which is, it's like a bridge made of coal. Okay, it's a bridge made of coal. You have to walk across that bridge. Okay, and obviously, if you're going to walk across that bridge, you're going to burn. It's going to hurt, right? Your flesh is going to hurt. It's going to singe. It's going to darken, right? And you are obviously not going to, you're going to lose balance. And when you lose balance, you'll fall off that bridge into water, which is filled with crocodiles. And those crocodiles are going to snap at you. They're going to bite you. They're going to hurt you, right? And you still have to come back, climb on top of that bridge, and you have to walk across. All right. Visually, it just seems so gross to think of this, right? Now the point is, how do you really see it, right? The reality is that as you walk across, okay, your bones, your flesh is getting burnt off, things are getting burnt, right? They're getting blacker, and things are getting left behind. By the time you walk across this bridge, all of those things, what is getting burned? What is getting killed? My anger, my ego, my ahankar, the mud, the pride, the lust, the desires. These things are getting burned. They are getting cleansed and taken off, bitten off. And as they do, by the time I cross that bridge, there is a much cleaner, luminous, lighter self that has emerged from it. So at no point of time will Gita prevent you from going through these VVGPs. In fact, they are very, very, very important. What it will give you is a right perspective to go through these VVGPs so that you use them the way Bhagwanji wants you to use them and come out of it cleaner, more eligible for his grace, more luminous self of yourself, closer to Bhagwanji. Okay. Now back to the example of Mithya. I think that's all that we'll probably do today. Another example of Mithya would be in on a dark evening when there is just a little bit of moonlight outside. You may see a stump of a tree with small branches on the side as a ghost. Somebody else may see it as a dwarf, right? Again, it is not real, but it feels real to the person seeing it, and you will act as if it is real. You will act based on how you're perceiving the situation, however unreal it may be. And suppose it was a dark night. It's supposed to be actually a full moon night, but you can't see it because there's a cloud covering on the moon. The moment the cloud cover goes off and you see complete, like, there's a lot of moonlight there, and you suddenly see, oh, it was just a tree stump. Mithya's gone. Mithya's gone with the knowledge. But as long as the knowledge wasn't there, you felt and you acted based on that mithya, that perception, that appearance with which it came to you, right? Another example would be in a bright sunny day, there is CPO ka dher, right? Shells, right? A heap of shells. And you know how shells, they really, they give off light, right? They reflect sunlight so well. You see it from far and you feel as if like, oh, wow, that seems like an object of silver, right? You run to it, you come close to it and you see, oh, you went to it to where, chalo, we'll, pick up some chandi from here, some silver from here. You come there, you see it's only CP. From far, it was mithya. In that mithya, you thought it was silver and you acted based on that mithya. It seemed very real to you. Would you walk away from it? No, you wouldn't, because this feels so real. There is chandi lying there. There's a heap of silver. These are all examples of asat, but they seem sat. They seem real because of a veil of darkness, because of lack of knowledge, because of ignorance. So they seem very real and we act based on that unreality as if they are real. This world is like that. This world is a mithya, but we are constantly acting in it as if it is absolutely real. All are the whole concept of YOLO, right? We are acting based on mithya. I don't think we'll have time for Shloka 4. We'll go to Shloka 4 in the next class. Let's do some takeaways today.
Reena, I have some question. Can I ask?
Yeah,
Do we
yeah.
have the time permit?
Yeah.
Okay, in the beginning of the class, you said you can continue to, read for 5 years, but you're still the same until you do. So can you explain a little bit more on that?
Reading any book, reading scriptures, attending any amount of classes, listening into any number of YouTube videos will have zero impact on us, okay? Unless we use it to action, okay? How can I explain this to you?
Let me give you an example.
I can
Let me
give
give
you
an
one example that came to me. It's like you have a lot of money in your bank account. Okay, all of that money is there in your bank. You've got $1 million in your bank account. Unless you put that money to use to buy yourself a house, buy yourself a meal, you're not going to be, you cannot eat that money, right? You put it to use to actually buy, you action, use the money that's been given to you to go buy food and you eat it. Only then will your hunger be satiated. Otherwise, you will remain hungry. It doesn't matter how much money is there in the bank account. Unless you use the money to buy a house, you will remain houseless, homeless. Right? So all the scriptures knowledge may come to you. You may read it. But or listen to it until you do swadhyay, until you do tap with it. There is going to be no change in us. And what does tap mean? It means swadhyay. That's why we are doing these takeaways now. It's very important now for us to do takeaways, to learn how to use these things in our life. We read these 3 shlokas today. It will have no impact on any of us. We'll be no better off for it if we do not take it and make it into my me story. Where do I see this in my life? Where am I? It has to reflect. If you can't see it in your life, then you're not looking hard enough. Be very clear about it. Every aspect of this is reflected in our life. if we are really true to our journey. There's no part of it you will not find in yourself if you look hard enough. And once you look for it, then what are you going to do about it? Where will that surrender? When will you surrender yourself? What does that surrender feel like it? It will only come from experience. No amount of knowledge that a swimming coach will give you will translate into your experiential knowledge of swimming until you jump into the swimming pool and then try and visualize what the coach was telling you and try and action it out yourself. And of course, your first few strokes are going to be nowhere close to what he said. You will probably drown as soon as you jump into water. And then you'll go like, oh my God, the coach said I can swim, but I can't, I don't know how to. Of course, the first time you will drown, but the whole point is until you jump into water and try and practice and then keep listening and keep listening and keep practicing. One day you will be a good swimmer, just as the coach promised. Will not happen without Swadhyay, Tap. Will not happen without you actually implementing it on a daily basis with your VVGPs. Bhagwanji gives us ample opportunities to practice these principles on a daily basis. Does that help, Rita?
Yeah. Yes.
Visalakshi, you had a question?
Yeah, so you said one example, right? Like a rope example, someone is thought as the snake. So like a snake is also like how you think, right? That is not a snake, but you thought that is the snake. But that is also lesson, and at the end of the day, that is also lesson. Like you learn something when you surrender. You learn something from that, and then how you perceive it. That is the reality, right? So how you go through it, like you have the fear that time, then how you come out of it, then you get to know, oh, that is not a real, right? That way we can.
Correct. And that's how you'll use your VVGPs that come to you to cleanse yourself so that you can free yourself of the fears. You can free yourself of the limitations you've placed on yourself.
Learning.
You're a limitless being. But we are constantly limiting ourselves with our own thoughts and our own beliefs.
Oh, thank you.
Who wants to go first? Maybe Anita. It's still super late for her. Anita, do you want to go first?
Yes, I can. So the one of the takeaways that you already talked about it with Rita's question as well. So I will talk about it, the complete surrender. So the only way that you can, when you put your knowledge, or if you start thinking about is it right, the complete surrender needs to be like coming from within the point that you made about when you indulge with your own intelligence and ideas, then there is no complete surrender, unless otherwise you take out everything with your tap and swadhyaya. You'll have to put full faith in him, and then let it be, and that would be the complete surrender. That's one of the takeaways that
It's a great
really-
thing, Anita, but surrender is always going to be the last point in our journey. It's very difficult for all of us intelligent beings to surrender. Very difficult. Nobody here has done any surrender. None of us. Too much ego, too much intelligence, too much reliance on our intelligence. 40 years of science, right? Surrender is very difficult. But it is the goal. And you have to constantly ask yourself every single moment, are you really surrendered? You will find glimpses of surrender in your life. There are moments you can surrender, okay? You will. And you will find the beauty in that surrender. And then there are moments you cannot surrender. So first is you have to hold on to those moments, but you cannot hold on to surrender at all times in your life, right? The beauty is to get to that point of complete surrender at all points of time, which will happen over a period of time. But first, observe yourself. Observe where are the points of surrender and where are there no points of surrender. So until that I would say is the first thing we have to do. Observation, awareness of where we are. Thank you, Anita. Yes, Sanchita.
So I think, for me, what really stood out today was the fact that, this line that you said that, which is the characteristics of the lotus, that, it actually lives amidst the creature. So, it does not matter, what the circumstances, we all have the capability to, we all have the capacity to actually realize our capabilities. And so, it just gives me that reassurance that, each one and every one of us can do it. All that we need to do is be consistent in our journey, do the swadhyay, the nam jap. I think as long as we are consistent in whatever it is that we do, I think, we'll see the results at some point in time. I think that really stood out for us. And I think this actually is for everything in life, whether it's your work, I think whether it's, whatever our relationships with people, but I think being consistent, becomes very critical, in life for us to see, for us to see the results of it at some point.
Absolutely. Consistency is the key. That's why we don't say do 20 shlokas. Do 1 or 2 shlokas. That's enough on a daily basis. But daily basis is what is important. And in chapter 2, when he was talking to us about Karma Yoga, you would remember there was a whole shloka in which he gives us the characteristics or the special characteristics of Karma Yoga. And one of the key characteristics of Karma Yoga was that it does not have prativyay. It does not have opposite effects if you don't do it correctly or wholly. And secondly, it does not ever die, right? How much ever you do, even a small amount of Karma Yoga properly, the results of it will stay with you. It does not get destroyed. And there were examples, right, to show where there is a prativyay, like in case of medicine, or if you don't do it at the right time, in the right way, like in case of, when you plant seeds for a fasal, it won't happen unless you do it correctly. Karma Yoga is free of all such things. You do it consistently, small amounts at a time, it will always accrue in positive ways to you. There are no negative side effects of this. Yes, Kakuli.
For me, the most important takeaway is when you said whatever is the environment around you, you can fulfill divinity in you. By this, always, because you bring it back to your examples and your experience, I feel what you said is so true, is that especially having done Gita for 2 years and also in RCM, like consistency and being there at all circumstances in your life, especially in the last 10 months, the way life has happened for me, even carrying the RCM book is very difficult for me because my hands are still so weak. But I feel it's very easy to not do the class, to put an excuse, even with your aches and pains. But if you can go beyond and come and attend the class, it is also to be grateful to Bhagwanji that he is there for you, and these circumstances and these experiences, from that to take away a learning and understand that beyond this you have to rise beyond this, and maybe always choose to walk the path which he wants you to walk, which is of truth, and try to bring down your desires, try to be less angry, etc. All the vices you have to like kind of reflect and bring down on. Yeah.
What a beautiful sharing, Kakuli. Thank you so much. In fact, it's not just about, I would go one step further. It's not about it doesn't matter what the circumstances are around me, it will help me reflect my divinity. We go one step further than this. Whatever are my circumstances, they are best curated for me specifically. It's a specialized container for me. It's a specialized environment for me to bring my divinity forth in the best possible manner. Right? My life is very specially curated only for me. It's a personalized use case. It isn't a general use case, one style fits for all. No, my garments have been created only for me. It's not an H&M for everyone. Right? Your tailor has created it only for you, and it will fit no one else. Which is why in Karma Yoga, you remember we've been told this, apna dharm karte hue, even if you die, it is preferable to someone else's duty. दूसरों का जो धर्म है वो भयावह है, right? दूसरों का धर्म भयावह है, अपना धर्म नहीं. So our circumstances create our special duty, which no one else will face. Only I will face, because I will learn the most for the specific vikars I have in my life that I need to deal with. They will come forward in this particular situation, right? If Tuhina is dealing with anger, and that is the most important thing for her to deal with, I will face different circumstances from Abhinav, because Abhinav has a different lesson to learn at this point of time. Right? His life experience, his VVGPs will create those specific things for him, and very different ones for me. Yeah? Yes, Kavita.
For me, my very big takeaway from the class is that, the Lord would enable Arjuna, enable Arjuna to have the direct view of his cosmic form, because Arjuna made him worthy of that by all the gyan he was getting throughout all these chapters, and all the change of his perception, and then again, because of the Lord's compassion, he is getting that Lord's grace and the compassion. So I was just thinking of that. It is such a beautiful thing how that mental surrender to the God, even though it is a very big thing, like the Arjuna step by step he proceed from the perception from the first chapter to here, and get the God's grace to have this view. So that is my big takeaway. The other thing, another example of the twin, what you are saying, it is such a beautiful example. When you think a little bit more, I was just contemplating on that now, because when we see this whole universe as Divine Mother's creation, and we all are there, that gives that feel of oneness. That's what I want to share. Thank you.
Thank you, Kavita. Yes, Rituj.
The things that I reflected with during this class were, first of all, Roop and Swaroop, and understanding the commonality to everything. And I need to inculcate the fact that seeing everybody, that they might be so different, which is the Roop, but the commonality behind all of them is I need to identify as God. So that's one thing. Then, we were discussing the examples of the divine sublimities, and what would be the commonality. So one such example is like electricity, because it sources so many things, and the effect is different in so many ways. So how we use it and what we do with it, it's not, you can't put an adjective to electricity, because that is pure in itself. It's what we do with it and what we do with the world. Then and I also have to decide that what do I have to be governed by? If it's going to be my ego or God, that was something I reflected with, even though the letters are the same, they're 3 in number, and they're sequential letters in the sense that the only difference is D and E, but the difference is so minor, but the effect and how I manifest it and my perception is completely different. So I need to choose what I have to do. And lastly, when we were discussing the takeaways about Swadhyay, one of the examples that in another class with Vinika Chachi, she would explain that Swadhyay is like an antibiotic. It's irrespective of allopathy or homeopathy. It's just that you have to complete the cycle. Otherwise, its effect, you can't stop it. Like if it's 5 days or 3 days, you have to complete it for its full effect. So something like that is Swadhyay, which is a complete cycle for its full effect. So that's my takeaway.
And that's a great takeaway, Rituj. Thank you. Another thing I would really stress upon is Swadhyaya is not just about reading shlokas. It is about reflection, true reflection. It's when we do that nidhi dhyasan, manan, chintan, and find it in ourselves. That is what is true Swadhyaya. And at no point of time should we think, yaar, do shlok padh liye, mera kaam ho gaya. Now, having said that, something is better than nothing. Do that. At some point of time, kab tak aise hi padhte rahenge? At some point of time, just that physical fact of reading, at some point of time, will trigger chintan and manan in it. That's the nature of this knowledge. That's the very nature of it. So even if you do not want to do it, you know, you just keep reading, keep reading, keep reading, keep reading. The nature of it is such that तुम्हारे अंदर आएगा ही ये बात. Chintan Manan will start by itself. Swataha, it will start at some point of time without you wanting to even do it. It will happen. So if you are not at that, if you find yourself not at that level where you think like it's too much of an effort, I don't want to like, do Chintan Manan, fine, just read, mechanically read. But if you can take the next step forward and do actual Manan and Chintan today, it will accelerate the journey forward. Yeah, thank you. Yes, Vijay.
For me, there are a couple of things that quick takeaways from my end. Like one is Kamala Patraksha, be like the lotus leaf. Even though it is born and living in water, but it is completely unaffected by its surrounding. That's the way of life, right? Like that's what one need to. Whether it is any difficulties or joy or happiness, it's all temporary. What is permanent? What is mithya? What is actual real that is there, and what is the maya that is there surrounding us? So that's one great example, like how we need to live through it. That's one thing. Second one is like gold is put into fire, we are put into VVGPs. We'll have to come out clean eventually, right? Like understanding everything what we are going through are temporary and for a reason, whatever we have done based on that. And third one is the gap that we all of us are talking to try to bridge it right now is understanding of the theory versus actual practice, right? So as long as if you are making a step, not only by Swadhyay, by do some implementation of whatever we are learning, I think that will start improving our understanding. That's a key takeaway for me, like little bit more every day, which will start bridging more of these gaps. And what Tina has mentioned, eventually it will start coming as a natural practice by itself.
Absolutely. That itself is Manan. Being able to see the difference in what the principle states and what I'm really doing in my life. Recognition of that, awareness of that is the very first step. And that will only come when we do Chintan and Manan on the principles. So fantastic. And another thing that Vijay just stated and what Ritu stated, so it reminded me of the example I wanted to give, but I forgot. The Roop and the Swaroop, right? That's what Ritu was talking about. And the example Vijay gave, gold. So the Roop is gold transforming itself into these various jewelries. And Swaroop of all of those aspects of jewelry is only one, which is gold. So that's a good example to understand the difference between Roop and Swaroop. Swaroop is one, gold. Roop and utility, so many different things. You make it into a necklace, you make it into your bangle, you make it into your ear tops, whatever. And what should be our nazariya? Our nazariya should be that of a sunar, the goldsmith, who only looks at all those ornaments and sees how much gold is in there. Right? So his viewpoint is always on the Swaroop. What is the Swaroop? What is the gold in it? Okay. Thank you. Anyone else?
I think it's time. Oh.
Sorry. So I'll be very quick. My takeaway was the two examples. One that you gave where we walk on the coal path and we come out, though it is difficult, but we come out of our vices and we drop all the wrongs, And of course, as you said, that problems come to as a blessing. Problems are rather a blessing. To look at it like that.
Absolutely. Thank you. Sachin?
Pretty similar. I think those are the situations that we're dealing with, and that resonates a lot to the current circumstance. I also about the conversation that we had around the mithya, the maya, and the distinction about it, and the lived experience of maya being mithya and all of that. So I think those would be my takeaways.
Thank you. Naina, do you want to quickly share something?
Pretty much everyone's covered it. What struck me was what Abhinav said about like 5 years back we were a different person, and then again in the future we will be different. The growth, personal growth, you can just measure by looking back at the decisions you've taken, and now with the Gita journey, it's changing. The the last 2 years have made a big difference. That's what I can say. So, and of course, the VVGP, looking at the VVGP now, the way you look at it before, you look at it as a challenge and something, you're averse to it. You look at it with fear or, I don't know, I mean, raga dvesh. But now you look at it as some opportunity for your personal growth. That's
Beautiful.
what I would like to say.
Thank you. And the last person, I know it's 12:06, but let's just have quick takeaway from Visa Lakshi.
So, as everybody already mentioned, so my takeaway is whatever it happens, just a whole God hands is always within inside your hand. So just holding and then just pass through that consciousness, like a surrender. You said it's the last is coming. It's very difficult to surrender, but I always from the beginning of I started 2 years back, but from the beginning I started whatever it is, if I'm not able to make a decision or anything, I just surrender. Whatever it happens, I accept it. So it's a learning. Anything comes under the learning, or you can get the happiness. So you have to. That's bit difficult to take happiness very easily. We can take it, but the learning is bit difficult because of the ego. Everything is there. So sometimes we cannot accept things, right? So this is your antakaran is cleansing because of learning something. So so I take it that way. Yeah.
Thank you, Visa Lakshi. Thank you. Thank you for everyone for sharing. I think one last thing I would say before we close off and we do the closing shlokas is the takeaways are not for summarizing the class. Okay. So don't worry about it. We're not summarizing the class here. We're only trying to see what is it that you take as a major takeaway for your implementation in your life. And it's okay if, 3 people have the same takeaway, because that's what you're going to implement, right? So that's what I'm very keen on listening into. What is it that you're working with? What is it that you will implement? Questions, trying to see if there is any space which you've not understood correctly that we can improve upon. That's the key reason for doing takeaways, right? So it's all good. It's all good. Takuli, you did the starting shloka, so do you want to close it as well?
I can, or if Vijay wants to, he can also.
Sure, I can do that.
All right.
ॐ सर्वेषां स्वस्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां शान्तिर्भवतु सर्वेषां पूर्णं भवतु सर्वेषां मङ्गलं भवतु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे शान्तु निरामय सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ पूर्णमद पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णम् आदाय पूर्णमेव अविष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः ॐ
Thank you, everyone. Narayan, Narayan.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you.
Narayan.
Narayan, Narayan.